Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Malden School
Recording in
Committee
progress.
meeting. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Malden School Committee meeting. Today is Monday, September 9th, 2024. Our next meeting will take place on Monday, October 7th at 6 p.m. here in the Jackson Chamber. This evening's agenda will consist of the following. We will first, as always, pledge allegiance to our flag. We'll then have a moment of silence for our veterans. The clerk will call the roll to ensure that we have a sufficient quorum to conduct business this evening, and then we'll get into tonight's agenda. The agenda consists of the following. Item number 1 is the approval of the special session minutes of August 12th, 2024. We will then go to public comment. That's item number 2. People that want to participate will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Item number 3 is the superintendent's report. Within that report will be the introduction to the new assistant superintendent of teaching and learning, opening of school highlights, how it went, his entry plan update, and then we will have the introduction of the superintendent coach, Cynthia Paris. From there, we'll then go into item 4, which is subcommittee reports and discussions. We'll hear from the chair of policy and procedure, Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. After that, we'll go to motions and resolutions. That's item number 5. There we have 4 items to discuss and potentially act upon. The first is a Title IX policy update, and again, that will be led by Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. Ms. Spadafora will be leading the way on the next 3 items, which is the 2024-2025 school year calendar amendment, student enrollment of school department personnel, and then finally, we will entertain accepting a donation from Malden Reads to our Play Pro production. After that, everyone, we'll then entertain any points of personal privilege. Then we will entertain a motion to go into executive session for the following 3 reasons. The first is to approve the executive session minutes of August 12th, 2024. Item number 2 will be pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, subsection 3, to discuss strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiations with non-union personnel, i.e. the clerk of the school committee. And then the final item under executive session is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, subsection 3. This is to discuss strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiations with our non-union personnel, i.e. the Assistant Superintendent of Pupil Personnel Service, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Business Manager, Accounts Receivable Coordinator, Assistant Business Manager, Confidential Human Resources Administration, Data Specialist, System Manager, Administrative Attendant Supervisor, system-wide, Communications Specialist / Building Monitor, Clerical Parent Information Center Manager, Facilities Manager, Principal of the BB School, Principal of the Early Learning Center, Principal of the Ferryway School, Principal of the Forestdale School, Principal of Malden High School, Principal of the Linden STEAM Academy, Principal of the Salemwood School, Food Service Operation Manager, After School Coordinator, Assistant After School Coordinator, 3 Site Coordinators, and then the Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Initiative Grant Administrator. Now from there, we may come back out and act on some of these items. And then finally, item number 8 will move adjournment. So are there any questions before we begin tonight's meeting? Okay, hearing none, I'd ask everyone to please rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, at this point, I'd ask everyone to please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so around the world today. Thank you. All right, we'll now take attendance to ensure that we have a sufficient number of members here to conduct business.
Mr. Drummey? Here. Mr. McCarthy? Here. Ms. Spadafora here. Ms. Macklin? Here. Ms. Horty? Here. Mr. Gray? Here. Mr. Bernard? Here. Ms. Rose-Zeiberg? Mayor Christensen?
Here. All right, so we have a sufficient quorum. Let's take up this first item of business, which is the minutes from August 12th. All right, so there's been a motion made by Mr. McCarthy. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. Everybody's had a chance to look at them. Any questions, queries, qualms? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Item number 2 is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the school committee. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes, and we are going to dedicate 15 minutes for public comment. Of course, if it turns out that we need more time, we can add to it. But let's open up public comment. Anybody wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
Okay,
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tonic-Banwa. I live at 31 Grace Street. So I'm a parent, I'm a school site council member at the BB, and I'm here to speak about 2 roles at the BB. So first, since even before my kids, now in 3rd and 6th grade, were enrolled in BB, they were excited to one day take band class at their neighborhood school. For those who are unfamiliar, Ward 3 residents have voted in the band room for many years. And we would go home after doing our civic duty and talk about all the instruments in the room, especially the drums that were hung along the walls. My kids were excited to one day be able to take music class in that room. When my older kid entered BB in 2018, I began attending the school site council meetings, though I was not an official member. I was able to participate in the shared vision and planning, which deepened my sense of belonging and made me aware of the areas of growth as laid out by the whole school improvement plan at that time. The Ed Reform Act, which frames the way that school site councils work within the school and with district priorities, outlined that our work, in quote, assists the principal in the shared decision-making, which I believe we do. During the budget season last year, we were not informed, nor was the school community made aware that the middle school music education program would be eliminated. We had no opportunity to unpack the values that are at stake with this budget cut, and our community members were blindsided just before the start of the school year. Furthermore, it troubles me greatly that the band class was eliminated because, anecdotally, band class seemed much more popular with my child's grade than the theater option. Other parents reported the same in a recent online conversation. Many more students wanted to continue taking band than take theater. As a community member, I stand in solidarity with families who want the band program brought back. Second, last year, the school site council sought permission and was granted the ability to change the Spanish teacher role to a world language teacher position to widen the applicant pool. We were motivated by the values to increase the cultural and linguistic competency of middle school students. We understand that equity was cited as a reason that the position was changed again. However, each K-8 school having second language instruction is equitable, and the bottom line is that our students have no access to second language learning again this year. In summary, we need the music program at the middle school level reinstated. We need to follow the Ed Reform guidelines and give opportunities for school communities to come together to give input into budget changes and program offerings. We want to see the student elective data that was gathered before the end of last year shared publicly so we can have some transparency in how band was chosen to be eliminated. How many middle school students opted for band and how many chose theater? We also need world language instruction at the BB to begin again. Finally, we must end the practice of informing families about changes after role and program eliminations have occurred. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Good evening.
Dear Malden School Committee, my name is Milo Moore, a 5th grader at the BB school. It has come to my attention that we have no Spanish teacher or world language teacher. Well, I think that we should, but not just any world language teacher. I think the kids of the BB school should do a vote on what language they want to learn, and then we can focus on getting that teacher hired. Personally, I would love to learn Brazilian Portuguese so I can talk to my friends whose first language is Portuguese. Also, we have no band teacher. Why is there no band teacher? I don't know. It's very sad, and we do not have a choice between the 3 exploratories, band, Spanish, or theater. As a 4th grader going into 5th grade, I was so excited to choose between Spanish, band, or theater. I probably would have chose Spanish because I wanted to learn a new language, but now we don't have a choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee? Good evening.
Hi, my name. Dear Malden School Committee. Hi, my name is Luciana Moore, and I'm a 5th grader at BB School. It has come to my attention that my school, BB, has no world language teacher. All schools in our district but ours have the world language teacher that teaches Spanish. I mean, look at the population of Malden. The most used language other than English is Portuguese. Why can't we learn Portuguese? Why can't the kids at BB School have a choice on what language we want and what one we could actually use in life? I personally was so excited to choose my elective, and I wanted to try band so that I could learn an instrument. Now I feel cornered, because I don't really have that choice. That is why I came to you today, so that we could try to get it approved so we could have more choices. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the committee?
Yes, hello, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tiffany Ciccarelli Moore. I am a parent of 2 5th graders that you just heard that attend the BB School. I am also on the BB School Site Council as a parent. I come to you as both advocates. This is not only for my children, but for all affected students at the BB. There are 2 main issues I want to explore. 1, the lack of choice in exploratories for the 5th to 8th graders, theater, band, and Spanish. And 2, the fact that the Spanish teacher position was cut and no notification of such. Why did this happen? Who made the decision? This is twofold. As a site council member, we advocated to have the position of the Spanish teacher changed to any world language in the hopes that maybe we would open the applicant pool. To our dismay, we saw the position was changed back to Spanish after being approved to a world language, and now the position was cut altogether. My sons, who you just heard from, were eagerly excited to choose band or Spanish. Now, with no band teacher and not even a Spanish position available, we only have theater. It also means that each class has 4 exploratories a week instead of the 5, so they end up doing 1 exploratory 2 times a week. This is not what is stated in the program of studies. The lack of transparency and accountability with these decisions is extremely disappointing and so frustrating as a parent, as well as a site council member. My hope is that with our new superintendent, that these issues are prioritized for our school community at the BB. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
Good evening, Malden School Committee and Superintendent Sippel. My name is Deb Giswaldo. I'm president of the Malden Education Association, which is located at 77 Exchange Street here in Malden. I hadn't intended to speak on this, but as a music educator, I would be remiss not to mention the fact that I believe that every student in every school should have the choice to be able to take classes like band, chorus, as well as theater. And world language, whichever world language it is extremely important. And the younger a student has the opportunity to begin learning a language, the more chance there is to obtain proficiency in that language. On behalf of the rank and file members of the MEA, I would like to extend a public welcome to our new superintendent of schools. Just 2 short weeks ago, the superintendent welcomed all of the Malden Public Schools staff back from the summer break in our first all-district gathering since August of 2022. We appreciated the time that was taken by the superintendent during the all-staff opening day exercises to help us to begin to get to know him as a person, an educator, and an educational leader. What several hundred of us heard on August 26th is that we hold many shared values, some of which are that all students have the human right to a quality public education that develops their potential, independence, and character. The expertise and judgment of education professionals are critical to student success, and we must maintain the highest professional standards and respect each other as professionals. And partnerships with families, communities, and other stakeholders are essential to quality public education and student success. I could go on, but my goal is to not go over time this year during public comment, at least not today. What it comes down to is it was made clear that there's a shared mission to create great public schools for every single one of our students, and that our students are more than just a score. They're a whole person, a whole learner, a whole global citizen, and it's our duty to together fulfill that promise of public education to prepare our students to succeed in our diverse and interdependent world. Again, we'd just like to welcome Superintendent Sipple to the Malden Public Schools. We're excited to move the district forward for our students, the community, and educators. Thank you.
All right, we're now going to go online. Let's see if there's any hands raised. Not seeing any. We'll toggle back. Anybody wishing to address the school committee?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Amanda Linehan. I live at 83 Bloomer Street. I'm also the Ward 3 City Councilor and the parent of a BB School 6th grader who is with me here tonight. While it is, of course, fairly unusual for counselors to address the school committee, I'm doing so now in a spirit of collaboration, much in the same way that my counterpart, Ms. Spadafora, did earlier this year when you came to the public comment at council so that we would understand the severity of the potential cuts we were facing in our school budget, and that made an impression on me, and so I hope you see me coming here tonight in the same vein. Of course, I am a parent as well who's directly affected by some of the things that we're talking about. So I'm here for the reasons I just stated, and really to amplify the voices of my friends and neighbors and constituents who have shared with you a little bit tonight. We are distraught over the educational inequities that are emerging and are disproportionately affecting the BB community. The city of Malden is calling me right now, by the way. We are very disappointed and deeply concerned at the loss of band and foreign language at our school. As neither of these items were identified as cuts in the budget process, and that's a joint process with the school committee and the city council, we're really seeking answers around the why, and we also want to hear some clear steps as to how we're going to come up with a fix. I know we can't do that tonight, but we really want to open the conversation because this does feel very urgent to our school community, and we want to figure out how we can get to a point where we have a solution. I strongly believe that if we're to remain committed to both equity and neighborhood schools, we have to work proactively to ensure that where a student lives has no bearing on the education that they receive here. We understand that the city is facing challenging fiscal times, and we want to be partners in keeping our schools strong in the face of these challenges. We also deeply appreciate the hard work that our teachers and our principals are doing to build a climate of excellence during these profoundly difficult times to work in the field of education. We want to see that continue with a rich curriculum and with eager learners. But our children are devastated to arrive at school and to find out that these programs have been cut. And I don't have easy answers for my child or others as to how that happened or what we're going to do to fix it. In our global economy, art and language are not nice to haves. They are central to a 21st century education and a strong path into the workforce. Adults with multilingual and creative skills are highly sought after as architects and designers, programmers and engineers, researchers, educators, doctors, small business owners, startup founders, and yes, even politicians. I myself found the path to adulthood through a college scholarship to study music, which I majored in college, and would never have encountered that option without my public elementary school's low-cost accessible program. Tonight, we're asking for a near-term plan to provide these core subjects again and to align curricula and offerings across K-8 schools. We know we can't compete with the breadth offered in, say, a private school or a wealthy district, but we have a responsibility to achieve parity here at home.
Counselor, you're over the 3 minutes. Are you wrapping up?
I am. I just was going to say, working together, I know we can make sure that our students are given the opportunities that they so richly deserve, and thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee? Good evening. Hold on one sec. Let me see what happened here. Try now. Is it working?
My name is Lynn Walters-Reckie. I live at 621 Highland Ave. I'm a parent of a third grader at BB who, first and foremost, I'd like to co-sign everything that was said about the loss of band, the loss of world languages, said by all of my fellow parents at BB. It's very concerning in how it occurred and how we weren't informed of the process. There was no transparency. But I'm also here to address the fact that the health curriculum in Malden has not been updated in a very long time and is taught from a very old school perspective of the demonization of foods as being good or bad rather than a food neutral perspective of all foods have value as long as they're not rotten or spoiled or you're allergic to them, and teaching children how to make smart choices across a global palette of diverse food pathways and food cultures and different economic levels of food access as well. So I just want to flag that since we have a new superintendent in the house, I hope that he's listening and will just flag the health curriculum as something that really is in desperate need of updating in Malden.
Thank you. Okay, we're nearing the 15 minutes, I believe. Is there anyone else? If not, we're going to go to our superintendent. Last call. Okay, nobody online. All right, we're going to close public comment. We'll now go to our school superintendent for his report.
Well, good evening. Mayor Christensen, members of the committee, it's really good to be with you all together, and good to have everyone else here as well. My name is Tim Sipple, and it's my first school committee meeting on this side of the dais. So it's special to be here with all of you tonight, and I look forward to sharing a little update of what I've been up to since the summer, since I began, and also how the opening of the school year started as well. Before I do that, I have a new member of my team that I'd like to introduce. I want to thank Tony Mertz. I want to thank Pam McDonald. I want to thank all the principals who are here voluntarily tonight to represent our schools. But I especially want to introduce to the committee and to the public our new Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, and ask her to come up to the podium, Komal Basin. Please welcome her.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have about 45 minutes, correct, to give some remarks? I'll be short. I'm just honored and excited to be part of this team, and I'm deeply committed to the success of students in Malden. So just, thank you for the opportunity to work here, and I look forward to our collaboration in the future.
Great. Welcome.
Great. Well, I have 15 short slides to share with you tonight. Our agenda, I'm just going to be sharing, as I said a moment ago, some highlights from the opening of school. I'm going to be sharing an update related to my entry plan, which I put out, shared with the public back in July. And I'm going to just speak very briefly about an opportunity that I have that the school committee has invested in, which is the new superintendent induction program that I'm engaged in with a cohort of superintendents across the Commonwealth, and the coach who is working with me, and have a chance to introduce her to you also. So, MEA President Giswaldo already stole my thunder. We had a really awesome celebration on August 26th. We had our STEP team from the high school. We had our mayor, Christensen, who brought in a Malden History Channel video of public education in the city, which was very, very cool, and said a few words to welcome our educators back. We had our students performing, the chorus from the high school leading us in the national anthem, students from Salem Wood who led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We had 4 of our seniors, probably one of the most powerful parts of the day, 4 seniors who were sharing about educators who had touched their lives over the course of their journeys since preschool in Malden Public Schools. And then they also gave words of appreciation and exhortation for all of the educators who were there that day. We fed everyone breakfast before we got started, but we also had a chance for everyone to get to know me and to share a little bit about myself, as Ms. Gesualdo said, but then also core values that are really guiding our work together. These values I've already heard in some of the comments tonight. It's extremely important that we include and collaborate. We want to include everyone, those who feel the agency to engage with the school committee or engage with their principals, and those who don't even know that that's a thing. And we also want to make sure that we have the opportunity with our educators for them to not work in isolation and to collaborate with one another, because none of us have all the answers, and we can always find better answers if we work together. All of us are also on a journey, and I shared a little bit about my story of I actually had the opportunity to start learning a language in elementary school, but I didn't really speak it until I landed flat on my face in South America at the age of 19, and really struggled to really speak a language. And I had to humble myself and let folks correct me, and just let them correct me over and over and over again until eventually I became fluent in Spanish. And all of our educators, all of our students are on a journey as well. We are on a journey. And we have to seek feedback, and we have to be willing to have the humility to get that feedback and work at the things that we need to improve. And we can all do that. And then lastly, this value of doing right by all kids. And as I already alluded to, it's so important that we collectively are committed to the success of all students, regardless of their background, regardless of the challenges they have, regardless of whether they have the agency or they have someone in their corner who knows that they have the opportunity to advocate for them, and regardless of what their educational history has been and whether they've felt successful or not. We have to be committed because they're relying on us to be committed for all of their success. It was a great day. It was a great day. And we followed up on the 27th of August, and then on the 3rd of September, 2 days of professional development with our educators from across the district in person. We actually had folks in person in schools by grade level, by content, across the district, and it was great. Got to get around to see educators at work with each other, collaborating and giving voice into the curriculum that they're now implementing across all of our schools. And it was really exciting to see the enthusiasm they were bringing to the work, and even to see some of those core values that I mentioned being explicitly named and connected to the work that they were doing together. On the 28th, the magic really started to happen. And that was when all of our students, except for our littlest ones, our preschool and kindergarten, they didn't start until last Friday, but all of our 1st through 12th graders started school on Wednesday the 28th. Mayor Christensen and I had a chance to right around all the 6 sites that were welcoming students that day, and then we got to see the Early Learning Center that afternoon for the dedication of their new playground. But it was so exciting to see classrooms full of students, students excited to be back, teachers excited to welcome them. This one photo here is of the steps of the Brunel building, the Jenkins building, and into the Jenkins auditorium, where all of the 9th graders were welcomed by the staff at the beginning of the day on the 28th. Such an amazing experience and tradition that they have in doing that. And but Salemwood, Linden, Ferryway, Forestdale, Beebe, across all of the schools, and Malden High, where I got to spend a good portion of the morning the following day. Students are really excited to be back, and it's just really, really great to see what they're doing in our classrooms. And then last Friday, I got to tour the Early Learning Center with Miss Lawrence, the principal there, and wow, you would have thought that they'd been in session for 2 weeks already. The things were just moving so smoothly, the kids were so excited, the teachers were so engaging. It was really, really wonderful to visit all of those places. So really exciting. The mayor and others have asked me, so how is it? Is it what you expected? I said, it's way better. Way better than what I expected. And I was expecting good things. But really just exciting to see, first of all, just to experience the welcome that I've received in all of my goings and comings across the district. It was quite strange, I must say, after that Monday morning, the opening day celebration, all of a sudden everyone knew me. And everyone knew what I got in 6th grade reading. And everyone knew how hard it was for me to learn Spanish and to really learn Spanish, but I did. And everyone knew something about me and was touched or impacted. Maybe that's too strong a word. They were encouraged by different parts of what I shared on Monday morning. And now it's my job to begin slowly but surely meeting everyone else and getting to know them as they've had a chance to get to know me. So it's been good, really, really good. Back in July when I first arrived, I shared an entry plan. And that entry plan, the link to the entry plan is still on our website, www.maldenps.org. It's at the bottom of the page. And what I did in that entry plan was to lay out how I intended to get to know the Malden community and to begin working with all of the school committee and all of the members of the Malden community to begin to lead the district towards the future. What I'll share with you on this, this next slide is the goals, as I just said, were to include voices and ideas from all members of our community, to deepen relationships and seek feedback from folks across the district. First of all, to make this school year successful, and we're off to a good start, but then also to develop consensus about our way forward. In June, actually starting before I started on July 1st, through the end of August, it was really a chance for me to immerse myself in the community, begin to get to know people, to get to know the members of the committee, and also to begin to get to know our school leaders, along with many other people in the city, begin to get to know people in the city who are committed to our schools and to our students. And I have many, many more people to meet and to get to know and to develop relationships with. Phase 2 started last week, and that is really intentionally listening to learn from you, from continuing to learn from the committee and from the mayor and from the leadership of our district and our city, but also learning from our educators who are back from vacation, and learning from our parents and our caregivers and other members of our community who are a little bit easier to engage with now that school's back in session. And I'll talk a little bit more about how I'm doing that in a moment. Also, learning in action. And that is really about me and my team getting into as many classrooms as possible on a regular basis. My commitment has been to visit every classroom in the district before the end of the year. I'm really shooting to visit every classroom half of the classrooms, roughly half the classrooms by winter break, to really get a sense of how are students feeling. Do they feel like they belong? Do they feel like they have a place? Do they feel comfortable? Do they feel safe? Are they engaged in what they're learning? Are they engaged in what they're doing? And then is what we're preparing them, or what is what we're doing with them actually preparing them to have options in the future? That's going to be going concurrent with those listening sessions through the end of November. And then in November through January, we'll be really taking a hard look at all of the information that we've gathered and all the input that we've received from all of you to make sense of it and inform what our next steps are going to be. And I'll be looking forward this winter to sharing with the committee a summary, pretty detailed summary of what all of that is, and sharing with the community as well what those themes, what the consensus seems to be from what we've heard to that point, and what the discussions and what the conversations are going to need to take place in order to have more clarity about what that consensus might be in some areas. And for the second half of the year, then we'll be charting the future of the district together. This is on the next slide, if you would. It's just a list of some of the folks that I've met, and just some photos of some of the people that we've met with, including our administrative team across the district, our union leadership, obviously our school leaders. We have had a chance to, several summer programs that we've had going this summer, some of our students doing some very precious work to catch up, and others some precious work to get ahead. And I had a chance to meet a lot of those students this summer, which was really, really special. But you'll see just a list of some of the folks that I've had a chance to interact with and have conversations with over the course of the last 2.5 months. We can go to the next slide. So as far as those next steps are concerned, these listening and learning period, the 3 questions that I'm going to be asking and that I really want to hear answers to from as many people as possible are: what are the things that you love about the Malden Public Schools? What are those things that you see we are knocking it out of the park with respect to these things? You love these things. Another question, which is also very important: what are the things you want to see improve in our district? We're all on a growth journey. We are not where we want to be in every area yet, but what are those things that you would like to see improve? And because there are across our district going to be so many different opinions about that, it will be very important also to have some input in terms of what the priorities should be about what we focus on next, or what things we focus on for this coming year. When will we be talking? So already scheduled, and many of the parents and caregivers in the district may have already received a notification or a flyer about the event for their particular school community. But starting on Tuesday, September 24th, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow, we'll be having town hall meetings at each of our schools. And most of them are going to be 6 to 8 p.m. The Early Learning Center will have it a little bit earlier, 5 to 7. But those 2 hours are going to be set aside for me to really hear from our parents and our caregivers about those 3 questions that I just mentioned. What do you love? What are you looking to improve? And what do you think the priorities should be? And we'll be using some innovative technology to collect that information so that voices don't get lost, and so that people also have a chance to respond to and amplify ideas that maybe they didn't have, but others in their school community brought to the table. And I should mention, in addition to the 7 schools, there'll be at least one for a district-wide gathering of parents of students who are in our special education programs, which will be at the CPAC meeting on Wednesday, October 30th. And we're looking to schedule additional citywide meetings for other groups as may be helpful. Also going to be engaging with educators. And so there's just a list of the dates that I'll be visiting each of the schools. And I'll be coming towards the end of the contractual day so that folks who cannot stay past the time that they're on the clock, so to speak, because of other obligations, will still have an opportunity to engage with me. But voluntarily, if folks are able to stay longer, I'll be there for a full hour and 15 minutes at each of these schools to have conversations about these questions. And that, again, is also starting on the 24th at Forestdale School. But over the course of through the beginning of middle of October, I'll be visiting all 7 schools. And again, we'll have follow-up sessions as may be needed to make sure that as many people have the opportunity to give input as possible. And as I said, we'll be engaging with students, with other community members, with other stakeholders. As we go, we may have surveys that we'll be using to supplement the input that we're gathering from these town hall meetings and from those engagements. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be visiting classrooms across the district to really connect the dots from what we're hearing from stakeholders, what we're hearing from students, and what we're actually seeing happen in our classrooms. And again, I'll be looking forward to circling back with the committee and with the community to share what we've heard and where we are in the next steps of the process this winter. So with that, any questions about that part so far?
Let's save them to the end.
Okay, very good. As I mentioned earlier, I have had the pleasure of being in a cohort of maybe 12.5 other superintendents, first-year superintendents from across the Commonwealth. And it's a program that's a partnership of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents and the state's Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And I've already had 2 sessions with them. I'll be spending a day with them this coming week, which I'm looking forward to. And I had the pleasure of working with a coach in that program who is Cynthia Paris, who's a former superintendent herself. And so I want to invite Cynthia Paris just to come up and say a few words.
Thank you. So happy to be here. My name is Cynthia Paris. I'm the coach for the new superintendent induction program. And as the superintendent mentioned, it is a 3-year program. We focus on supporting new superintendents in instructional leadership, community engagement practices, strong focus on equity. We focus on leadership feedback. We invite the superintendent to share with us some of the opportunities in the community in his calendar so that we can be present on site and offer feedback and offer a thought partnership. There are 21 superintendents in this cohort, and in fact, we are meeting next week for our 2nd meeting. So we look forward to the continued engagement throughout the year, and it is a 3-year program. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
And again, I just want to thank you. I am just thrilled to be here in Malden Public Schools. I'm thrilled to be and grateful to be leading this district and to be working with this school committee, with you, Mr. Mayor, and with all of the school leaders and all of our partners and the parents and caregivers to really serve the students of this great city. So thank you, and I'll entertain any questions you have.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Superintendent. Any questions of the members? Let's go to Ms. Spadafora first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question and a couple comments, Superintendent. First question is in regards to your town halls. I have parents that are wondering if these are going to be recorded or if you're going to offer Zoom for those that may not be able to make it in person.
That's a great question. And there are several, so maybe. We may be able to do it hybrid. However, I would say a couple of things. One is we're working very hard to secure translation services so that all parents, at least all of the parents who speak our most prevalent languages in the city, have an opportunity to engage, really engage in this conversation with their fellow parents and with me and with our team. I mentioned that we'll be using some innovative technology to facilitate that, and the technology that we're using will allow parents to respond to these prompts of what they love about the district, what they would like to see improve, and what the priorities should be. And if they're there in person, there'll be a QR code that they can point their phone at, and they can enter that information directly. However, it does also support parents being able to engage remotely, and that the window can be offered for, like, say, 48 hours so that everyone in that school who wants to participate will be able to. And not only will they be able to contribute their ideas, but they'll also be able to, once they've gotten everything off their chest, they'll be able to begin looking at the ideas that their fellow parents and caregivers have already put into the conversation, and they'll be able to amplify. And what I mean by that is they can, kind of like what you do when you go to a restaurant, if you think that the review was a good review, or if you think that that was a good burger, or whatever it might be, you can give it stars. And you can, if you really agree with that idea, you can give it 5 stars. And if you're like, I'm not so much into that, you might give it 1 star. So over the course of the engagement, we'll be able to see which ideas are really having the most energy. And that's something that will be possible to do remotely also. We have some technical pieces we have to figure out related to that. And I'll be getting more information about that very soon.
Fantastic. Thank you. Only question, I just wanted to say welcome. And I wanted to point out in your entry plan, you did say pre-June, and I just wanted the community to know that it literally was like 2 days after we took our vote that you were on the baseball field cheering on our Malden baseball team. So you really hit the ground running, have not looked back. It's full steam ahead, and I think I speak for all of us here. We're very excited to see where the district, where you're going to lead the district. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spadafora. Anybody else? All right, hearing none, we're now going to go to item number 4. And Ms. Rose-Zeiberg, you want to give a general update on what's going on with the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee. And if you wanted to, we can roll right into the motions and resolutions if you think that might be the way to go. So let me get over to you. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that first superintendent's report. Yes, so the subcommittee has been meeting, the Policy and Procedure Subcommittee met on July 30th, and on August 29th, we had to discuss, we discussed possible new enrollment policy for ELC for MPS employees, and we really focused also on changes that had been made to Title IX. Because the federal government had made changes to that, then we also have to make sure that our policies are in alignment with the changes that have been made. So the first meeting we went through some sort of bigger areas that we thought, and changes we were going to make, but then because we knew that through the work of Assistant Superintendent McDonald and through council, that we were going to be getting further guidelines from the state. So we waited for those to come through for the 29th. So those are all in the committee has received those changes. We voted out favorably on the 29th on revisions that, in 3 different policies. The first being the Title IX grievance procedures for complaints of sex discrimination, including sexual harassment. Policy that's referred to as ACA, non-discrimination on the basis of sex, and ACAB, sexual and sex-based harassment and retaliation. So the documents that the committee has seen for review, the motion would be to approve those, the changes.
All right, motion made, seconded for purposes of discussion. Ms. Macklin. Let's first hear from our superintendent. You're on the same page?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I had the pleasure of sitting in on both subcommittee meetings, along with Assistant Superintendent McDonald. The revisions that are being proposed are very closely aligned, if not fully aligned, with the state guidance for these matters.
Okay, and what was the vote of the subcommittee? Unanimous?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any questions? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody here opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. Now, staying with motions and resolutions, the next 3 will be led by our Vice Chair, Ms. Spadafora. The first has to do with an amendment to the calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to turn this over to the superintendent to give a better explanation than I possibly could, but it is in regards to our graduation date. Our graduation has always been the first Sunday in the month of June, but for some reason or another, it was placed on the second Sunday in our calendar. And that has something to do with the amount of days that our seniors have to be in. I'm going to just turn it over to Dr. Sippel to explain it better than I.
Thank you, Vice Chair Spadafora and Mr. Chair. The state requirements are that seniors can be released from their school year earlier than the rest of the students in the district, but that and graduation can be scheduled before the end of the school year also, but it can't be more than 12 days, 12 school days before the rest of the students are dismissed for the year. And so June 8th falls within that window. So does June 1st. And so I think there may have been some, just something that escaped notice when the calendar was approved. Just to be clear, we're not talking about any more days of work for staff or any changes of the calendar of that nature, which would be which would impact working conditions for our employees. We're only talking about whether one Sunday or another. And the 1st falls within that 12 school day window. And so we can continue that tradition.
Okay, so motion, Ms. Spadafora?
Motion.
Seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Everybody clear on what we're doing here this evening? Just a question from the chair. How will you get the word out? I presume something will go out.
Yes, I think Mr. Mastrangelo, the principal at the high school, was aware that this was something the committee might take up. I don't think he anticipated it would be this month, but they've held off on communicating some of the dates related to graduation until this was finalized.
Okay. All right, no other question. One question. Ms. Rose-Zeiberg, let me get your mic on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to check with the 12 days and for kids getting out. I don't have a calendar in front of me to see if there's any impact to look at that. If we had snow days or had to go further, we're still within the window on the 1st.
So through the chair, we actually snow days, the practice from the state is that it's really just the last scheduled date of school, not what may or may not happen given the weather, because of all of the work that has to be done to schedule a venue and plan an event like a graduation. They don't require that date to shift.
Thank you.
Good question. Anybody else? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it, that carries unanimously. Now, student enrollment of school department personnel. Staying with Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we had a request from an educator that has, and I think everybody should have received it in your docket, who was living in the city of Malden, has since moved out of the city of Malden, but would like to keep their children in the district. Their children have only attended Malden Public Schools since they started. And we do have a policy that was written in regards to school admission of children of school department personnel, in which that request would come to the school committee following that it meets all the eligibility requirements that apply to any student that would attend school here. And just to refresh everybody's memory, in addition to those children who, as a matter of law, are entitled to enroll in the Malden Public Schools, children of personnel who are permanently employed in the Malden Public Schools may, at the school, excuse me, at the sole discretion of the Malden School Committee and Superintendent of Schools, be admitted. I'm sorry, my reading glasses are terrible. Be admitted, provided the superintendent determines there is space available and that the student or students involved meets all the eligibility requirements that apply to students who reside in Malden. All requests must be made in writing and submitted to the Malden School Committee and Superintendent of Schools before May 15th of the year preceding enrollment, and personnel must be employed in the Malden Public Schools for at least 3 years prior to a request being considered. The maximum number of personnel, students eligible to attend Malden Public Schools at any given time is capped at 5. Student school assignment will be based on availability/space and not necessarily where the school personnel is employed. This enrollment applies only to those programs and services that are provided within the Malden Public Schools. And then there is a clause built in that substantial hardship transfer may be granted on a case-by-case basis if the personnel demonstrates a substantial hardship and the hardship is unique to the family. A substantial hardship transfer is meant to provide for child transfers into the Malden Public Schools if the personnel does not qualify under the normal transfer policy but has suffered a hardship to include but not limited to terminal illness or death of a primary caregiver, incarceration of a parent, or deployment of a military parent. Substantial hardship requests must be supported with proper detailed documentation when submitted to the superintendent.
Okay, so your advice?
Well, I think because there's numerous things that need to be met. One is, what do we have for space? So we cap this at 5 students. I don't know if the superintendent or any of our assistant superintendents have that information for us.
I presume you're in favor of this?
So this particular case, you're speaking about this particular, so the schools that, where the students are enrolled, and there are 2, they do have space to accommodate them. I think the committee needs to revisit the larger question of whether the 5 is an appropriate maximum or not. I think could be very well persuaded that we have room for more than 5 in these kinds of situations, and that to afford our educators the opportunity to have their children in the district where they work could be a good thing. But that's, again, for the committee to decide as far as that cap is concerned.
Okay, so Ms. Spadafora, you'd be asking us to suspend or
I think
what's the proper motion?
I think it's up to the committee how they want to proceed.
But what's your recommendation?
I'm going to abstain from this vote.
Got it, okay. Mr. Gray, and then we'll go to Ms. Horty, followed by Ms. Macklin. Stand by 1 second. Mr. Gray, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick clarification. I think it wasn't quite made clear in the presentation. Are we at the cap, the 5-student cap?
Superintendent?
No, we are not. Okay.
No, we're not.
So,
Okay.
All right, over to Ms. Horty. 1 second, Ms. Horty. Go right ahead.
Thank you. So I just want to clarify, if
Please.
I can. So these are students who have attended Malden Public Schools since they've been old enough to attend school. Or can I ask what schools they attend? Or am I not allowed to do that? Sorry,
At liberty to say?
can I say that?
well, one's at the high school.
Okay.
All roads
Okay.
end at Malden High. The other one, I believe,
Very way.
very well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so definitely two places that we can fit someone. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, over to Ms., no. Let me, oh, okay, very good, okay. Anybody else? Ms. Rose-Zeiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the request coming in, and just thinking back of other votes that we've taken, so the request would be, they're asking it under the substantial hardship,
Yes.
and the person meets all the other criteria, the 3 years prior, they've worked here that long, like they meet,
Yes.
we've vetted that, and there was, it says with, proper detailed documentation. Has that happened? One of the lines, last one, substantial hardship request must be supported with proper detailed documentation when submitted to the superintendent.
So so my understanding is that this family moved from the city because of the cost of living or cost of owning property in the city. I don't know that it meets the hardship in terms of the circumstances that Vice Chair Spadafora was referring to. However, they are educators who've been longstanding employees of the district and meet all the other criteria for a petition to be admitted as students of employees,
Thank you.
children of employees.
Thank you.
Although from the chair, Ms. Rose-Zeiberg, it was, from what I understand, sudden,
Okay.
that, they had to leave the city, so it wasn't mapped out, and they just missed,
Yep.
the deadline. This is something that happened after.
Well, it does, again, in looking at it, that hardship, obviously, it's not something you're planning on.
Right. Anybody else? Ms. Spadafora?
So I just want to be clear, if we're going to look at this as a hardship request, it should not be sitting before us then. This would be at the sole discretion of the superintendent, and we would not be taking a vote on it, because the policy reads that that is at the sole discretion of the superintendent. So if this body feels as though this request is a hardship, we should not be voting on it.
And Ms. Spadafora, the other option is what? Where would the school committee vote?
If we felt as though it wasn't a hardship, but it met the actual policy, then it would just go to a vote of the committee.
Got it, got it. All right, what's the pleasure of the body? Ms. Horty?
I'd like to make a motion, but could you please help me? Because I want to do this properly.
Sure, go right ahead.
I'd like to make a motion for the school committee to consider allowing this students and families to remain in the district.
Okay. Is that, Ms. Spadafora, how you believe it should be framed?
I can fix it if you want.
I think so. No, I think you
I'm
have
trying to
it.
get my motion paperwork here. So you'd like to make the motion to recommend that the school department personnel be allowed to keep their students enrolled in the Malden Public Schools?
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Mr. Gray. Any other discussion? Just from the chair, Ms. Horty, I want to say, I think that is the appropriate way to approach this, because it's an affirmative stance of this body that we understand and we're willing to act on this. Let's go to Ms. Macklin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to be clear, because Vice Chair Spadafora said that this is at the sole discretion of the superintendent. So I'm wondering why we're making the motion.
If we went the hardship way, it would be at the sole discretion of the superintendent.
So we are not.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go to Ms. Rose-Zeiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to check if we're in compliance with the part that says you have to submit the requests before May 15th of the year preceding enrollment.
No, we are not. That is the
So then-
conundrum.
Right, so then it would almost have to defer to the hardship part. Or I mean, I would have to either abstain or say no, just because it would be
Sure.
in violation of our policy.
Yeah,
I don't have a
understood.
problem with letting people stay. And I obviously, I know that we need to do some policy review. But that's of concern because we've made previous votes. I understand, I know Vice Chair Spadafora had mentioned last time that there have been historical votes that would have to look at as well. And I wouldn't want to jeopardize anything that we've done prior by making a decision with something like that.
Good point, good point. All right, Ms. Horty, the sponsor, let's see.
So I want to clarify what you said, just to make sure I have this I'm understanding this. So the deadline was May 15th to request this for this school year. So May 15th, 2024 for the 2024-2025 school year. This family on May 15th was residing in Malden.
Yes.
This family continued to have their students enrolled in Malden Public Schools because they were unaware of the fact that they would be moving.
Yes.
So they've already begun the school year here, but because of this situation, they're no longer living here.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to.
All right, very good, thank you. I see both points. Let's go over to Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to go and state that I'm inclined to vote yes on this, simply because I think that we've got, number one, if we're going and putting the concerns of students first, and they've been invested in the schools for as long as they have been, having had as a child having to go and have done a few moves, it can be disruptive to their educational process, and if we can minimize that, then we should absolutely go and do that. The other thing is that I also understand that with the cost of living in the Commonwealth, something happens, there's a change, there's a circumstance that is beyond the family's control. We don't want to go and have someone that is, number one, a teacher, that we're already having a hard time going and finding positions, to have them then have to go and make a decision on whether they stay in district, or we have to go and replace that teacher because they say, I have to go and I can find a job that's closer to where I am now, but I don't want to do that because I want to stay in Malden. And if my kids can stay here, then that makes that decision easier.
Okay, why don't we do this, everyone? Let's find the middle ground. If the sponsor and the person that's second would be so willing, why don't we recommend that the superintendent exercise the provision contained within the policy so as to address what Ms. Rose-Zeiberg is saying, because she's not entirely wrong. That way we'll be in compliance 100%. And based on what the superintendent has stated, I believe he is going to fulfill that recommendation. So that might be the cleanest way. So Ms. Horty, if you would be so willing, you recommend that we recommend to the superintendent that he make this happen. And Mr. Gray, you're seconding that. Is that, are you okay with that as the sponsor? Ms. Horty? So you'd still be the sponsor, just tweaking the language?
So the original motion is off the table.
Yes. So we're recommending to you, Superintendent, based on the vote, that you exercise that provision to have these students remain with us, effective immediately, okay?
Just so I'm clear, to interpret the circumstance within the hardship
Yes,
clause
correct.
of the policy.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So you make the ultimate decision, but it's our recommendation that you do it. All right, everybody clear? Let's see, all those in favor? Yeah, why don't we do this? Ms. Spadafora is right as the vice chair. Let's do a roll call on this one.
Mr. Drummy? Yes. Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Spadafora, abstain? Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Ms. Horty?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Ms. Rose-Zeiberg? Mayor Christensen?
Yes, so that carries 8, one
one
abstention. Okay. One second. Ms. Spadafora, do you want to explain the abstention?
Yeah.
Stand by. I just want to give Ms. Spadafora the opportunity to explain the abstention.
Thank you. And I just wanted to be clear on why I was abstaining. It's because I know the family well, and I didn't want to be, impartial to this vote, because I do deeply care about this family, but I did not want to influence my peers up here, so.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Ms. Spadafora, is there anything else in that particular item? If not, we're going to move on to the donation from Malden Reeds to Play Pro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The superintendent received a wonderful letter and donation from Malden Reeds, who works closely with us, the schools, the school committee. They come before us with their book choices every year. And in the letter it reads, in the 2023-24 school year, Malden Reeds once again hosted the Mini Writer's Den program for middle school students to participate in after school, during which they honed their writing in various genres. Students were supervised by a tough student with support from a Malden Reeds educator, and then they presented their compilation of students' work. As part of the program, students met with experts in the genres they were exploring, and experts were provided with a stipend for their time. The expert for the playwriting session requested that we make a donation to Malden High School play production instead of sending him a stipend. And I'm pleased to attach a check for $100 to honor that request.
Motion to
accept.
Seconded by Ms. Horty. All right, everyone. Any questions? Hearing none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. All right, we're now down to item number 6, personal privilege. This is an opportunity for members of the committee to let us know what's going on in your individual wards. So left to right, let's start. Mr. Drummy?
Please, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, welcome back all the students and teachers. Hopefully you have a great year. Welcome to Mr. Ted Sipple. I've been calling him Ted for 3 weeks now. I know his name is Tim, his father's name is Ted, but for some reason in my mind, I'm an idiot and I've been calling him Ted. But welcome, Tim.
I think Ted Sipple might be watching.
Oh, okay, well, we'll make it even then. All right, first off, tomorrow, September 10th, is the Fairway School PTO meeting and School Site Council. That'll be at 6:30, even though it says 6 o'clock on their calendar. They moved it up a half an hour. If you go to the Fairway School PTO website, it's a Zoom meeting. Click on there and they'll let you in. Mr. Chairman, September 26th is a special day for the Fairway School. We're having our family fun night, so get your barbecue skills back up. As if I remember last year, you were passing out hot dogs like they were going out of style. So that is from 5 to 7 on the 26th of September, on Thursday night. And then they're giving away free ice cream again. Well, let me rephrase that. They're not giving away free ice cream. It's $2 an ice cream. And that is on Ice Cream Friday. So the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th, it's right outside the main parking lot, $2. Come down and support your PTO, and they've got some great ice creams, too. It's not just plain stuff. It's really good stuff. And other than that, that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Drummy. Anybody else? Okay, let's go over to Ms. Horty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome back, everybody. It's always nice to start out a new school year. It feels like fall. It's time to happen. So Mr. Weldi has a couple important announcements for you. Open house is going to be this Thursday, the 12th, from 5:30 to 7:30. Please come over and meet your students' teachers, see their classrooms, hear more about things that Forestdale is planning for the year ahead. Mr. Weldi, Ms. Carpenito, and Mr. Foster will be there through the evening if you would like to speak with them briefly as well. Also, the Forestdale PTO is having their first meeting this year on Wednesday evening. That's the 11th at 7 p.m. This is going to be over Zoom, so please check out the PTO website for the Facebook page for the Zoom link where you can connect to the meeting. Mr. Weldi also had sent out a family flyer, so if for any reason you haven't received that flyer, please reach out to the school and let them know. That has all the important information coming up at the school. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Over to Ms. Rose-Zeiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I wanted to thank everybody who was involved in creating the new playground over at the ELC. I wasn't able to go for the ribbon cutting. I was at work and then swung over after, it was my first day back at school too, so I went back over, and so it was between like 5:30 and 6. And as I said to my family members, it was music to my ears because there were still kids playing, laughing. You could hear it coming over, through the parking lot. There were adults sitting on the benches, having a great time, and one little kid threw himself on the ground screaming, "I don't want to go." So well done. I was fortunate enough to be on that committee. I do hope that people, when they see it, see how much effort was made. It was a community effort with a lot of community input, which was important. And I do believe, when I see it, that it met most of, if not all of the goals that have been established for that project. Thanks everybody for the city for it was up and down on getting that project completed. It was wonderful to see that process happening. If you get a chance to volunteer and work on something like that, I recommend it. Seeing what it takes to get something like that done was very rewarding. So I hope that the community and all the staff at the ELC are able to enjoy that space for a long time to come. Then for Linden, there's an open house Wednesday from 5:30 to 7, and then on Friday night from 6 to 8, there's a PTO ice cream social. It's $5 per person. Presale tickets are due Thursday, 9/12. The presale tickets are important because that is what they use to figure out how much that they need to buy for the event. And that's it. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, welcome back, and hope everybody has a great school year.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, we'll now entertain, Ms. Spadafora, go right ahead. And then after that, everyone, will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really quickly, at BB, we have back to school night on Wednesday, September 11th at 6 p.m. And then the BB School Site Council will be meeting via Zoom at 5 p.m. on September 25th. And I know this is really far out. I have it on here, though. October 2nd is an early release, so plan accordingly. And then just a reminder, Dr. Sipple has really worked hard and hit the ground running to establish before school programming. If we had enough enrollment at schools, I do know that BB was able to make that number. So, but other schools, if you're looking for before school care, please use the enrollment links because we can't do it unless we have a certain amount of kids, just to make sure that we have enough staffing. And so I just wanted to say thank you. It was a very big concern of parents, and I'm pretty sure our very first meeting we sat down, we hit you hard with it. But here we are. I know at BB we have a 7 a.m. Program running. So thank you for that.
Mr. Chair, if I might, we actually have 3 of our K-8 schools where we have the program running. And so we're hoping to get the enrollment at all 5.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, very good. We'll now entertain a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Bernard, seconded by Mr. Drummy. Clerk will call the roll. And these are for the reasons outlined at the beginning of the meeting.
Mr. Drummy? Yes. Mr. McCarthy? Yes. Ms. Spadafora? Yes. Ms. Macklin? Yes. Ms. Horty? Yes. Mr. Gray? Yes. Mr. Bernard? Yes. Ms. Rose-Zeiberg? Mayor Christensen?
Yes. School committee will now be in executive session.
Recording stopped.
All right, Tim, good job. Thank you. Jen, well done.